From ConnectBooster, I'm Ryan Goodman. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of talking to Rayanne Buchianico, owner of ABC Solutions. She runs an accounting firm with a national footprint that supports many IT services firms, and she also provides Autotask consulting to MSPs. Rayanne is a well-known and well-respected financial voice in the MSP community, and here's what she had to say.
By the time people contact me, they already know that this is beyond their control, and they don't know where the problems lie because they have never really treated their business as a business before.
Rayanne, thank you for spending time out of your busy day. I know we're flying into what would be end of year tax season. It's hard to believe, and I know you're very busy, so I really appreciate you jumping on and spending some time with us today here on the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me, Ryan. I am really excited to be here.
Super interested in digging with you and discussing financial matters and automation and in the life and daily quarters and weeks and months and years of an MSP, as well as touch on some best practices. I know you do a lot of work with Autotask users, but before we get into that, I'd love to get a couple other questions out of the way if you are open to that.
Of course, that's why I'm here.
Cool. So let's get a couple of the basics out of the way. We'd love to just get 100,000-foot view about your business, as well as where people can find you online at the end of our show.
Okay, so I'm the owner of ABC Solutions, and we are located in Clearwater, Florida. And you can find us at abcsolutionsfl.com. Don't forget the FL. The FL is for Florida. So it's abcsolutionsfl.com. If you drop the FL, you'll land in some company in like Washington State or something. That's not me.
That's not where we want them.
No. And so what we do is we're a full service accounting firm. We do bookkeeping, accounting, tax preparation, and we specialize in working with MSPs around the US and Canada. And so we help them understand their finances, their KPIs. We set up customized metrics, help them measure. So our our slogan is measure your success, and that's really what we want to try to do, is help people understand where they're making money and where they could improve their profits. And I also co-host a podcast. I know. Awesome. PSA Impact, and I co-host it with my friend Chris Tim out of the UK, and awesome. We help MSPs get the best use of their PSA systems.
Where can people find that podcast and subscribe?
That is psaimpact.net, and you can also find it on Stitcher or any of your favorite podcast catchers.
Cool, thank you. Now, I love the perspective. I mean, we work in finance as well, and I know that both of our respective companies, probably come into different situations where an entrepreneur that's running MSP, oftentimes they're a great technical person, but sometimes the business side of it, became an afterthought depending on how they got into business. So, you have a real unique perspective on the MSP business as a CPA. How did you end up working and starting to focus on MSPs inside of your business?
Funny story, actually. Yeah. I've been in public accounting since I was fresh out of high school, right?
Okay.
And so, and I'm going to date myself just a little bit here, but back in the 90s, I worked for a CPA firm, and we did a lot of accounting system consulting. And so we were taking people from their, paper checkbooks and getting them into a computerized accounting system.
Yeah.
It was all the rage back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And so I found that some of our clients were getting taken advantage of, from local IT people. And the story that comes to mind is I went to an architectural consulting firm, and they had 4 people in the company the president, the secretary, and 2 other people. And the IT company came in and sold them 3 servers. Right.
Yeah,
So
little bit of horsepower.
it was a little bit of overkill for the 4 people in the company. And so I went back to the partners and said, I think we're missing an opportunity here. And I told them the story, and I said, wouldn't it be really great if we could, not only help our clients get into a computerized accounting system, but we could take our expertise in business and help implement the technology without taking them to the cleaners.
Yeah.
So off to MCSE classes I go, and I got my first Microsoft certification in 1998. And now I'm just going to fast forward that when I went out on my own in 2005, I thought it was the better use of my time was in accounting and not so much technology, but I didn't want to give up my technology. So I thought, how could I marry these 2 things? And then Autotask came onto the scene, and people started needing help integrating their QuickBooks with their Autotask. So then I started to specialize in that.
That's super cool. So coming out of high school, how far off are you from where you thought you were going to be as compared to, where you are right now? Because I wanted to be an architect, and podcasts aren't what architects usually do on a day-to-day basis.
So that question actually brings to light a completely different but interesting story about me. And it's probably one that not many people know.
Cool.
I almost didn't make it out of high school. I
No
was
way.
a pregnant, homeless teenager at the age of 16.
Wow.
So, and everybody told me I needed to drop out of school, and I thought, I'm less than a year away from graduation. So I ended up going to school, finishing out school through night school, and and I was able to graduate with my class, and because I just could not even fathom not having a high school diploma. I think that's probably the one thing that my parents, instilled in me before they gave me the boot when I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
That you're not going to go anywhere without a high school education. So I kept that in mind, and I was determined to graduate high school. And then throughout the 90s, while I was working for the CPA firm, I was working and going to school at night, and working 2 jobs and going to school at night, trying to, get my way through. So I owe a lot to that CPA firm because they taught me everything. And I look back on them as if they were my family, because they truly were, and just amazing people.
You're a freaking superhero. Holy crap. That's amazing. I mean, seriously, think about, I just, the path of life. It's always so interesting. And number one, I really appreciate you sharing that story and, being vulnerable there, because there's just lessons for people to learn in every corner of what you just talked about there. But all of the places where you could have given up and opted out and persevere through. And, what were some of the things that, kept you going through which I could imagine was just extremely stressful, difficult, uncertain times?
Gosh, I don't even know how to answer that question, because, when my kids were young, and both my kids are no longer young.
Yeah.
So when my kids were young, I had tunnel vision. Make sure that the rent was paid, the utilities were paid, the kids were fed, and nothing else really mattered. And so, and I was married at the time, and I just worked. I just kept working and working, and I thought the more that I worked, the more that I would learn, and I would, I can work hard now and take it easy later, in life.
Yeah.
Of course, that taking it easy later in life never came, at least not yet. But
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, fingers crossed, any day now.
It will.
But so I just kept going and I kept learning. And again, the CPA firm gave me so many opportunities. And then I went out on my own and I started doing freelance bookkeeping in the 90s. So I was, working full time and then doing, my own side gig, in the evenings and weekends, and taking the kids to, softball practice, and
Yeah.
just kind of, you just keep moving, at that point you just keep moving, and you
Sure.
don't stop to think, what am I doing all of this for? You're just like, wait a minute, I've got 20 other things that I need to do this week. So you just keep doing it, and that's just how you get through, I guess. I don't know.
No, that's amazing. And again, thank you for sharing that. I mean, I also think, is this something that has set you up to really not listen to business owner excuses on I'm too busy or the pressure's too much? It's like, listen, like, yes, we all have our perspective and we all go through our stuff, but this is doable. This is doable.
I try to go easy on people because, everybody has their own path,
Right.
and so I can tell my story, and I can listen to other stories and not really feel like, hey, listen, oh, you don't even have it half as hard as I had it.
Sure.
I would never
Yeah.
do that.
Right.
But,
Right.
But if I can encourage somebody, to like, hey, if you just, carve out 30 minutes a week, or maybe 60 minutes a week, we can get this done. And if you really want to go from here to there, let's just carve out the time and make a plan and make it happen. And most of the time that works.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's a really awesome perspective. And really, I mean, it ties into this year. I know it's over talked about, the craziness of the pandemic and how strange, 2020 was. But, what are some of the things that you're advising IT service providers and MSPs on to help be mindful of the current potential cash crunch? Or if they're doing really well, are there areas that you're talking to them about investing in, or what kind of trends are you seeing around finance in the midst of all this?
So, oddly enough, many of the MSPs I'm talking to are having the busiest year of their lives. Many of them, not everybody.
Sure.
And so in some cases, I'm actually seeing revenue increase. And of course, with the stimulus packages and the, all of the extra money they have extra money in the bank, and they have extra profits on their bottom line, because they've gotten that free money for 8 weeks of payroll, which was amazing. So now what do we do with that extra money on that bottom line? And so what I try to do, and I do this with all of my clients as often as possible, and I do it every year. I run tax projections, income and income tax projections, and I do it at the end of the second quarter, at the end of the third quarter, and then again, like around the end of November, for tax planning. And, what can we do if your net income is way up? This is what your income tax is going to look like. We can either pay it, or, we can find creative ways to spend it. Maybe let's make sure that you max out your retirement plan, or, hey, perhaps you can put your spouse on payroll and max out their retirement plan. Any way that I can get the money, legitimately from the business into the owner's pockets, to save some tax dollars, I'm gonna go for it. It's not all about, rent out and buy yourself a new car, or, and sometimes that's a good thing to do, but there are other plans that you can, other strategies you can put together that will also save money and, keep the money in your own pocket. And that's where I really try to go.
That's cool.
Other companies that are struggling there's a lot of things that they can do. One, pay attention to your cash flow. Find out where your money is coming from and going to. And so I have a number of a number of suggestions that how you can run the trends of your vendor costs. Who are you spending your money with, and how much are you spending on a monthly basis? Let's pick up, if your gross profits are down, then we've got to decrease your fixed expenses to stay in line with the gross profits.
Right.
So if you know that you need to cut 7% of your fixed expenses, first you have to know what those fixed expenses are. Then you have to make a concerted effort to really cut back on some of them. And, so we kind of work through some of that together too.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of M&A that's in consolidation that's been happening, and there are a lot of different opinions on that, and private equity coming into the space. But what have you been doing a lot of consulting and getting ready for exit, or what are the primary KPIs? As all of us are going to exit our business at some point, whether that's voluntary or involuntary, on our terms or not on our terms. How do you broach that subject with your clients?
The first thing that we do is open up the financials and make sure that they make sense, right? Because no buyer is going to be interested in your company if they can't read your financials. If it's just, if your revenue and your COGS accounts and your gross profit margins, if none of that stuff makes any sense, nobody's going to give you the time of day. So if you are really interested in exiting your business or hoping to sell it to somebody or merge with somebody else, start paying attention to your finances now. Get your P&L in line. And there are plenty of people out there that can help you do that. So some companies will implement, a chart of accounts, like the service leadership, chart of accounts, and then there's also like the simple numbers, or, and the simple numbers format of chart of accounts. And I didn't realize this until a client sent me a copy of the simple numbers chart of accounts. And I was like, hey, that looks just like the one that I developed, and I sent it back to them and said, this is my suggested chart of accounts, because it lines up the different types of service and products with the costs of those services and products, so that you can eyeball, just by looking at your P&L, whether or not you're making money on your products or what your margin is. If you're looking for, a 20% margin on your products, you should be able to look at the product sales, multiply it by 0.8, and see your product costs and come like within a few bucks. So, simple things that you can do to really just pay attention to your financials. That is going to be the key. And if you've got clean books, then you're going to be that much more attractive to any potential buyer.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Hey guys, Ryan here for a quick break from our show. We want to thank Rayanne of ABC Solutions for joining us on today's episode. You can find out more about Rayanne and her company at abcsolutionsfl.com. Now, this wouldn't be an ad break without running some ads, so I'd like to talk to you about our product, ConnectBooster. ConnectBooster is the premier accounts receivable management and payment automation tool for the channel. When our partners invoice, bill their clients, ConnectBooster automates the payment, automates the accounting, and gives 24/7, 365 visibility into end clients so they can see current invoices, past invoices, auto pay settings, securely stored checking, credit card data, and so much more. We all know it's hard enough to get in the door of a prospect. It's hard enough to close the deal. It shouldn't be hard to accept their money when the sale is made. If your business isn't one of the thousands that is getting paid faster with ConnectBooster, reach out to us at connectbooster.com to learn more how you can automate your cash flow. Before we get back to the show, we want to let you know all the ways you can find us online. Visit our website, connectbooster.com/podcast, to listen to new episodes before they air on the podcast network. If you'd rather wait, our episodes are available on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and really anywhere you can listen to podcasts. So search ConnectBooster on your favorite platform and subscribe to get notified when there's a new episode. If you have suggestions for future episodes or want to be a guest on the podcast, please email us at podcast@connectbooster.com or send us a message on Facebook or Twitter, and we'll point you in the right direction. Lastly, if you like the show, leave us a review on iTunes and tell us why you like it. Thanks for listening to the Confessions of an IT Business Owner. We'll get back to the podcast and talk to you soon. When people come to you, I would imagine that they're getting a paradigm shift of epic proportions, oftentimes of finance in their business. And you've made a lot of good recommendations here. Do you feel like MSPs need to get serious right now about making that happen? I mean, in my impression, it's a resounding yes, but it would seem like maybe there are a lot that are driving the car blind and maybe getting close to the edge of the cliff and not know it. What are some of those scenarios that you're seeing where people don't know how close they're getting?
That's such an interesting question, because by the time people contact me, they already know that this is beyond their control.
Okay.
And they don't know where the problems lie, because they have never really treated their business as a business before.
Sure.
So many people, and if you read the E-Myth from Michael Gerber,
yeah,
right? So, they have this entrepreneurial seizure, as he calls it, that, my boss is an idiot and I could do this thing 10 times better, right?
Yeah.
Off I go, I'm starting my own business. But really what they've done is they started their own job. Mm-hmm. And as long as the job that they've started pays at least as much as the previous job that they quit, then they're okay. And so they kind of operate that way for a while, and then it starts to grow and it becomes its own little monster. Mm-hmm. And now they've got to tame this monster, and they're not quite sure how to do that, right? So that's how so many people end up at these conferences, talking and listening to other people that have already been down that road and solved the problem. And so by the time they come to me, they know that there's a problem, and they're like, okay, this is kind of what I've been doing, and this is how I've been doing it, but I'm totally open to doing it better, and I just don't know what better looks like. Right. And that's when we start that conversation.
Now, you have a really unique set of skills, understanding the technology side of the business, understanding the finance side of the business, as well as the underlying tool sets that your clients are using. And I have a selfish question to ask you. Would you be opposed, because I know we probably don't have time today, would you be opposed to jumping on for a second session to talk a little bit more about the Autotask consulting side of your business and some of the things we talked about in finance, how that translates over to the PSA tool?
I would love to do that. I'm automating MSPs, whether it's at the PSA side or the accounting side, is literally where my passion is. Cool. So yeah, absolutely. Sign me up. I'm there.
Okay, everyone. We haven't even talked about the passionate side. We're about to get there. So hold on. You don't even need your chairs, just the edge of the seat, and we'll drop a second podcast. How does that sound?
Sounds great. And sometimes when I start talking to some of these MSPs and they're asking me questions, and then they can almost like hear the passion coming out of me, because and then we can do this, and then we can do that, and then once we get that information, then we can come over here.
That's awesome.
So, and I'm not really trying to be a cheerleader. I swear I'm not. But once I start talking about it and showing them the different things that they can do and the information they can extract from their own business, and that's just where my passion has always been, is helping other business owners grow. what I do.
That's cool. This reminds me of a phrase that you seem to embody where it's like, do the thing that you love and you never really have to work a day in your life. The excitement is certainly contagious and is definitely a contributor to your success from my perspective anyway. So that's cool.
Well, I do work a day in my life or two,
Okay. You do have some bad one. Okay. All right. Well, you do have challenges. Everyone, she is human. Okay. Just let me lay that out there for you. I'm just giving you a hard time.
It's okay. I am human. I have my flaws, just like everyone.
That's funny. So I want to shift just a little bit, just a slight shift over to collections. We see this side of the business here at ConnectBooster and just see the effects of businesses doing oftentimes everything right, but then not bringing in the cash, even though they're doing excellent work because they don't have good process in place. And this is, I don't even want a ConnectBooster type answer here. I want, I'm hoping to get practical, non-tool type answers. What are some of the things that MSPs can do to speed up payments in their business and establish good practices around collecting their money?
I love this question because I have like no less than 10 answers for it.
Awesome.
So if you guys are watching or listening, please take a minute, grab your pencil, right? So number one,
awesome.
Is don't be a bank for your customers, especially when product is involved. Right. So if you are ordering product for a customer, they don't get 30 days terms because you don't get 30 days terms.
Sure.
If your vendor is requiring a credit card up front, then you need to get that payment from your customer up front, at the very least 50% before you order and then 50% upon delivery, without question. There's no reason you should be financing your customers' hardware purchases. Some other things that I've seen MSPs do, to really reduce accounts receivable beyond that, some actually invoice their recurring services, 3 months in advance.
Okay.
So if they collect 3 months and then, systematically move 1 month of revenue over from the deferred revenue, we'll call it, into live revenue. Now, so that's really going to help your cash flow, because if your customers start getting used to paying for 3 months in advance and you have that money, now all of a sudden you've got a lot of residual cash that, is just going to be sitting in your bank account. And by the time that cash starts to run low, it's time to build the next cycle. So then you'll have, the next 3 months. And, you don't have to do that with every one of your services or even every one of your clients, but like, for instance, things that are not likely to cancel out, your Office 365 subscriptions, your antivirus subscription, and your regular recurring services. Naturally, this doesn't work really well with all you can eat, but I'm about to get to all you can eat services in a minute.
Awesome.
Because the all you can eat services, I think 2020 has made all you can eat services all but, obsolete. Because what we're finding now is it's very expensive and very risky to send all of your people out on the street for on-site support. So anytime that your people leave the office and have to go on site, I think that has to be outside of the contract and built outside of the contract. So go ahead and continue with your, unlimited remote support, during business hours, but any on-site support, I think, has to, be built separately. So look for, new ways to invoice for your services, and and take your existing contracts and try to upsell them, to the next level of service.
That's incredible. I think you're about to get, I know you're super busy, but I know we need to take some conversations offline. hey, we should chat. I'd love to engage you on a couple items.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to chat with you anytime, and of course, any of your customers or listeners.
Yeah.
We're totally here to help.
Yeah, those are great tidbits of advice. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to shift gears. This is kind of winding down our podcast, and there's a question I love to ask, and so I'm sorry in advance. No, I'm
Okay.
totally kidding. I'm totally kidding.
That's all right.
If you were to, with all of your experience and everything that you've, really gone through in your personal, professional life coming up to this point, and if you were to talk to yourself 20 years ago and give yourself a bit of advice that maybe now that would have helped you back then, what would that bit of advice be?
But the first thing that I would like to say is that I wish I had a better relationship with money when I was younger. I
Sure.
was so afraid of money, and I would work myself to the bone trying to collect a buck, right? I just didn't understand it very well. And I remember this conversation I had with my father, and I was, my kids were young. I was dirt poor, just trying to keep the rent paid and the lights on. And here's my father, retired at age 55, and he's screaming at me that I'm not taking 10% of my income and putting it in savings. And I was like, okay, you don't even have a clue, because there is no 10% of income left. I literally, I'm going to the gas station to put gas in my car with nickels and dimes.
Yeah.
Right? So, but now I find I'm having the same conversation with my kids, like start with $25, a week, or every time you get paid, take $25 and get it out of your bank account, get it out of your face, because if it's in your account or if it's in your pocket, you're going to spend it. But if you hide it from yourself, just take that $25 every pay and have it automatically transferred out so that you don't see it, but before you know it, you're going to have some extra cash in your accounts. And so when your car breaks down, or, you need something, you have at least a few bucks to scrape together. And I wish I had known that a long time ago. It took me a very long time to learn that lesson. So that's what I would have taught myself.
That should be a class in high school.
I
talking
agree.
about real life skills and how to make it easier on yourself.
Right. They should call it relationships with money.
Exactly. Yeah.
We could teach a whole course on building a relationship with your money.
Yeah.
So.
And whether you are someone that's, you have a relationship with money, whether you're aware of it or not. So
Right.
better pay attention to it. Oh, that's cool. Thank you. That's really awesome. Well, Rayanne, again, I want to thank you for your time. I'm really looking forward to our follow-up to talk about the same type of value that we uncovered today. I mean, this has been a really, really cool conversation. So selfishly, thank you so much for being on the podcast, and really looking forward to our follow-up and talking about the PSA side of things and how you interface with businesses over there.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I was thrilled to get the invitation from you, and I really value everything that you do, over at ConnectBooster, and the value that you bring to the MSPs, just by helping. And I'm sorry for the shameless plug here, but just by helping them collect money a lot faster, and everyone I talk to, everyone says, the value that they have brought to me far exceeds, the price that I've paid for it. So thank you very much for having me on your podcast. And I really look forward to talking again about automating MSPs even more.
Yes, that's awesome. Folks, we're on to a second podcast.
Woohoo!
Cool. Well, you have a great weekend and looking forward to our follow-up engagement.
Okay, thanks, Ryan.
You bet.